Welcome to the Performance Zone. My name is Dan Alexander, your host. And in today's episode, I am joined by a very handsome man, bald beard, looking great today, mate. It's Tom Bedford. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Thanks for
very
having me.
well. I was just thinking here, just as we were kind of just doing the prep for this. It's like a game of guess who, isn't it? Like, is he bald? Is he,
Yeah, if I take my glasses
is
off,
he
I'm
wearing
cheating.
glasses? Is he wearing a hat? Like,
Yeah. But I'll take that off. It looks like a mirror.
yeah. How's things, man? You good?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yeah, really, really good.
Excellent.
Can't complain.
So for those that are in my audience and Tom is new to them, just to introduce you. So Tom, you are the founder, the owner of a business called EMB Services. Is
Hmm.
that right? EMB Services.
EMB Recruitment and Training Services.
There we go. Right. Okay. Cool. Missing that important vital bit there. EMB Limited. So it's recruitment training services for obviously recruitment, but also a few different industries. So we'll touch on this in a bit. But EMB as a business is a fairly new thing this year. Um, so do you want to just give people, I guess, the abridged version of, this is my life, and
Yeah.
experience, just so that people can kind of get up to speed. So who are you? What are you about? And just introduce yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, of course. So I, Tom Bedford, EMB. My story is when I was 16, I started in a contact center. That was pretty much my first job, was in a contact center, and I was pretty much signing people up to re-register for certain magazines. Some that would be quite familiar, like the Recruiter magazine was one. And it was just a contact center in a small town that I lived. Um, there was a new business in town that started to really want people that worked at this business. They offered me about 25p more an hour. And obviously back then, 25p was a lot of money. So there I was, off I went to this new business. Now, this new business was within financial services, so something that I hadn't really done before. Still very much heavily in cold calling, business to consumer, no business to business at this point. So all business to consumer. They were a very entrepreneurial group. They were actually the biggest. PPI was the industry that was the biggest in the country. They grew so quickly. They were a great business to work for, and I still talk to a couple of the directors now. They were really entrepreneurial people. They're already about 10 years older than me, but at the time didn't feel like there was a big gap between us. So they were very much, cool, if you like, in terms of, here, Tom, here's the keys to my Aston Martin. Can you take it to the garage for me? Here, Tom, here's the keys to it. And there's me going, you sure you trust me with the Aston Martin? But we had quite a real we had some really nice connection. And they had multiple businesses, and recruitment was something that they were quite passionate in getting involved with. But at the time, they didn't have any experience in recruitment, and I was 17, so I didn't have any experience in recruitment either. Where they saw that I had value was I was just very tenacious. I
Hmm.
was a business developer. I loved being on the telephone. I was just cold calling people for fun. In the end, I was so robotic.
Where does that come from, do you think? That kind of that love for
I, do you
being
know,
tenacious, like just wanting to get on the phone. Where do you think that comes from?
yeah, it all stemmed back to the contact center. To be fair, I had no training. I had zero training in this contact center. I was still in college, so I wanted to actually be a policeman. That was my ultimate aim when I left school. And so I was doing that on a evening shift, and then evening shift turned into weekends as well. And then I was earning a bit of money, and I got to the end of my year, and I should have gone on for another 2 years doing my public services courses. But I was earning, it doesn't seem a lot now, but I was 16, and I had a mobile phone bill, and that was it. And I was on about 210 pound a week. I was paid weekly.
Hmm.
I was on 210 pound a week at 16 years old, and I was like, no, this is actually pretty good. Even though the grand scheme of things now is how would you live on £200 a week? But I was 16, still living at home. And I got a flavour for that. So I was like, right, I'll do more of that if I go full time there. And I didn't have any problems with it. Do you know when people say, well, just a natural? I was actually quite just naturally gravitated towards it. And all I needed to do was re register you to something that you already had. So the chances
There's
are,
there's a first lesson, right? I think from this episode today is you can train and train and train and train and train as long as you want, but if you don't have the right ingredients to make a cake, it's really difficult. Um,
yeah,
I've gone full circle, like say full circle, but I think that most people can like sales is a skill that can be learned, but um, if you've got someone that is so naturally against the grain of what it is you're trying to do, it is incredibly difficult. Rather than hiring someone who is more aligned to what it is that you're trying to create instead of the end product. I think it's quite an interesting topic.
mm,
We won't go down that rabbit hole, but
yeah, it's like a diamond in the rough. It is. You find that diamond, and do you know what? I didn't go through this getting told no all the time because effectively, now I think of it, my job was really quite easy. But the amount of people that failed in it was incredible. They had a high turnover of people. I couldn't quite work out what I was doing so right. That everyone I spoke to, and they were, this don't make sense to anyone that didn't work there. But then they had Eastern European campaigns, and they had Western, all these different campaigns where you were talking to people from different countries that might not English might not have been their first language, and I was outperforming native German speakers to companies in Germany. I was outperforming native Italian people talking to companies in Italy. It was just, I don't know what it was. It was really hard to explain. But what I would say is I just never gave up. I just
like
had
at
this
school,
grit. Pardon?
what were you like as in school?
Hmm. I was I was I was a good boy, to be fair. I only had one detention, but then I was smart.
Mm,
So I was smart in terms of my results GCSEs wise. Then they weren't nothing to write home about. I got into sixth form through my GCSE results, and I was in sixth form for about 15 minutes until they said, you don't have to be here if you don't want to be here. So I decided that I didn't want to be here. So off my
sweet.
chair.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah. I was there for 15 minutes and I lived about 10-minute walk away from my school. So
Mm,
by the time I got home, my parents had already been called and said, Tom is no longer sort of coming back to school and we wish him well. And, before I got home, my mum had already had a sort of plan as to what you're going to do now.
mm,
I'd only just had my national insurance card come through because I'm an August baby. So I'd left school when I was 15. So it's not even though I'd left school to go into work because I still didn't have a national insurance number or a
mm,
national insurance card. So I had this couple of months where it was just I could doss about. But in terms of what I was like in school, I paid attention. Again, you can link this to the training stage now. The way I learn stuff might be a bit different to others. I'm not necessarily a visual learner. I just like to do it. And if I fail, I'll do it again. And if I fail, I'll do it again. And I'll just keep trying. I don't read about stuff. I don't overthink stuff. People think that I'm quite strange in a way that I don't panic about anything. I never worry about anything. I'm not an emotional person. I have this end goal, I have this line of sight, and I just aim to that line of sight. That's all I do. And there's nothing there that can really interfere my path. And that might have been when, even when I was 15, 16. If you ask my mum, she'd say I was probably quite stubborn, growing up teenager, but she knew that she didn't need to worry about me. And she says that to me all the time. She said, I knew just when you were growing up, I didn't need to worry about you because I knew you'd just make it because you just find a way to do it. And I've kind of just never had anything really deflect me until recently,
mm,
um, where obviously the story is started in recruitment when I was 17 at a business that didn't have any sort of recruitment expertise within it. It wasn't traditional. It was online. So I was practically selling, uh, coming away from the newspaper and going online to advertise your jobs. Okay, 17 years ago, people were still nervous about the World Wide Web. So I was selling jobs onto Fish for Jobs, and I was selling, Reed, Total Jobs, all of these job boards, even Indeed, which wasn't a thing those many years ago. I was converting people from word of mouth, job centre, stick an advert in the newspaper to going online. And I was again, my target was £10,000 a month, and I was selling adverts 199 quid. And I was by day five, I'd hit my target.
Mm.
And I got to this point where I was lining everybody up to fall in the next month. So sometimes I was 3 months ahead of my target. And I got really complacent. And I had a boss at the time, which then worked out. He was my business partner in the end of my old business. He left and went to another organization. I followed him. I got a 10 grand pay rise to go to industrial recruitment, which I did for approximately 4 months. I hated it. Um, and then we both left at the same time. And I'm a perm consultant. I enjoyed perms at that point. And I didn't have the temp mentality. I didn't have that temp consultant mentality. So we started a agenda partnership or Recruitment Agenda Limited, which I exited in December 2024. Purely, no bad words at all about my business partner. We still talk. I was talking to him this morning for about an hour and a half. We still communicate really, really well. But it was come to a point where I needed to do something different. Commercially, some stuff that were coming my way I couldn't do, which I wanted to do. So I wanted that freedom to be able to actually do more than just sit at the top of the ivory tower and not be involved in stuff. And I
Mm.
didn't, or be too involved in stuff. I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to have some control back where I controlled what I did next, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. EMB, what is that? Something Bedford.
Yeah, yeah. My two girls, Evie, Nelly. Yeah, very simple. There's nothing, there's no magic behind it. EMB. I've got two daughters, Evie and Nelly. So
There you
yeah,
go.
EMB is just Evie, Nelly, Bedford.
Oh, there you go. It makes sense now. Now we're on the
There you
wires.
go.
Okay, cool. So how's so you're obviously this is new venture for you, start of the year.
Mm.
So how are you finding it in terms of as a standalone, like it's you and your dog and that's it, I guess, right? So it is just yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's just myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So how have you been finding the first year in the new business?
You know what? I've done it for 12 and a half years prior. So I started a business from nothing. Um, this time around, I started a new business with 12 and a half years experience of starting a business.
Mm,
So of course, I had the natural, oh, is this going to work? And how quickly can I get it to the point where I want it to be? And do I want to grow? Do I want to scale it? What do I want? And do you know what? Some of those answers I still don't know in terms of scaling. Do I want to do that? Am I very happy doing what I'm doing? But in terms of what I do day to day, I love it. Like, each conversation is very different. I work with multiple industries with different stages, so startups, SMEs, all the way through to large corporate PLCs, and it's nice to see the journey that some of these clients have been on and what journey that I'm on with them, and that's the stuff that I would have missed out if I stayed where I was. In terms of I don't get to see and I'm not involved and not integrated within teams
mm.
where I can make a difference. Um, that was where it wasn't me doing that work, and that's where I really wanted to be. But in terms of where I am, you know, as a business doing sound, I am an active recruiter. We were saying just before this, I'm in amongst the weeds all day. So I know what recruitment takes. I know what sales takes. I know what business development, account management, training, growth, all of that. I'm in and amongst it all right now. So the
Mm,
hardest challenge for me is managing my time.
mm.
Managing my time. So if I'm delivering training events, then I'm not recruiting. If I'm recruiting, I'm not delivering training events. If I'm doing both, I'm not selling. So that there is my juggle in terms of my time. Um, but I'm getting better at that, in
You
terms
say
of
the
juggling.
the the average split is at the moment between like obviously recruiting and delivering training.
I would say it's probably a fair split at the minute, probably 50-50.
Okay.
And that's designed by what I want it to be.
Mm,
If I was not going out to market to sell training services and be involved in businesses and developing their people, then I'd be on the telephone doing recruitment all day, every day.
mm.
Neither one bothers. If I have to do that, then I have to do that. And if that's 100% of my business, then that's where I should be, right? But yeah, at the moment, I'd say it's probably a fair split, 50-50, within training, design, and delivery and physical recruitment. But that's just how my customers perceive me.
Yeah, we touched on the market, right? In terms of like the market is what you make it. Like what are your thoughts on like how it is right now? What you're seeing out there?
If you ask a negative person and someone that doesn't work hard and somebody that doesn't put all the effort in, how's the market like for you? They're going to say it's pants because they've got no other way around looking at it. Because if everyone keeps telling you that the market's rubbish, then you start believing the market's rubbish and you stop working hard because there's your excuse. It's a hard market at the moment. So I don't have to work as hard because it's a hard market.
Mm.
I just think, look, I've got maybe a luxury. I can dip in and out of different sectors, different industries. Been doing it for 17 years. I don't just recruit into one area. So I've got clients that are across A to Z, from automotive all the way through to warehousing. So if there's a quiet area or a quiet industry, I can flip and do other things. So
A particular job
maybe there is a
titles
bit
that
of a
you go
luxury.
for in that, like, are there a particular across those industries? Um, what type of roles are you generally placing?
So if I go back to my this year alone, majority of it's been finance, sales, health and safety has been a big one this year as well. But majority of what I've been doing is finance actually. It doesn't seem a lot, but I've done 22 placements this year. But they're of seniority. These are not administrators where they're of a commodity. These are hires that take months, and have multiple months notice periods and stuff. So it doesn't seem a lot, 22. But out of those 22, yeah, marketing, finance, health and safety has really been my curve. And that normally happens to me. I'm a massive believer of you put something out to the universe and something happens.
Mm.
So if one client rings me and asks me to support them with a marketing manager's role, I bet you bottom dollar I have another conversation with a client within that week about a marketing role. It happens all of the time for me. Maybe I'm just riding this wave with a bit of luck. I don't know. Or honestly, it's one. I have a conversation with one client and it will mimic with another one.
Do you believe in like law of attraction, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, no, I do. I do.
What do you think it comes down to? Like, if you like, because I do as well. I think it's a case of I don't know. There's definitely some. I don't know. This isn't about like religion or spiritual stuff or whatever, but I
Mm,
definitely think we don't understand everything that's going on in this universe. Number one, but number two, like, I think it's once you start to get tuned in. Like, it's like when you're going to buy a new car, right? And then suddenly every car you see on the motorway is the car you want to buy. Um, I guess it's sometimes about tuning into that frequency.
mm.
There all along, but you weren't tuned into it, right? Like a radio station. So you start tuning into it, and then suddenly you start picking up those signals. So, but you can't really say. I don't know if they've called you about something and you're like, I haven't spoken to anybody else, and suddenly this thing's just hitting me. I don't know. The world works in some mysterious ways, Tom.
It just happens. Honestly, it happens to me all the time. I could be talking to you today about, you know, customer experience, for example. Someone will ring me later on to talk about their issue with customer experience. It happens to me all the time. So I like to just talk as much as I can because that in my belief in my mind is if I keep talking about something, something's going to happen. And that's probably a good way of describing what goes on in my brain. If I keep talking to somebody or multiple people about the same thing, it will happen. It will definitely happen somewhere along the line. I'm going on holiday here. I'm going on holiday here. I'm going on holiday here. Going on holiday here. Then you might just go on holiday there. I'm working towards buying this. And then you keep telling people you're working towards doing something. You will get there. It's just that's my belief. In terms of you just keep throwing it out there, and people, to people, and then you start believing.
Fair enough. I think yeah, there's definitely something to be said for there.
Mm,
It's probably like I'm a big fan of work by Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now. One of the things he says in that book is you are not the mind, you're the body. You're the body, but you have a mind, right? And so many people get stuck and they feel like they are the the person in their head talking, but you're actually the person beyond that, right? What he says. But to me, it sounds like you've got a great self awareness and a connection between, like, if you're going, I'm going on holiday here, there's probably a good synchronization between those two parts of you. So anyway, this could take
That
so
might be a really bad example, but if you keep saying it enough, it will happen. And that's what I'm a believer of. If you keep saying it enough to yourself and to other people, whatever that thing is will happen. It's as simple as that.
there's some limitations still, right?
There is,
It's a knock
yeah,
on the door.
yeah. Keep telling yourself I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to win the lottery. That's a chance because you have no control over that.
Mm.
But if you whatever you think
The things within your
about,
control.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If it's in your control, then it could happen
Okay.
because you are the only person that can make that happen.
Mm,
But if I said to you, Dan, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire in 5 years' time, and I keep saying it, and I keep saying it, I keep saying it, I keep telling everyone I'm going to be the same thing,
mm.
it may just happen. But I've got something to work towards.
Need a moment to catch your breath? Ready to go from good to unstoppable? At Bamboo Performance, our one-on-one coaching, exclusive live events, and dynamic online recruitment training platform help recruiters smash every target every time. Visit our website now and discover your highest potential. Let's get back to the show. That story about Jim Carrey writing himself a check. You hear about that one?
No,
So he wrote himself a check for however many, it was like $10 million for services rendered, and then he landed like his big role on The Mask. I think it was, or Dumb and Dumber, one of the others. But that's quite a famous kind of example of manifestation and and the laws of attraction and the rest of it. But yeah, super
I might
interesting.
get my checkbook out then.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Just write the name to Dan.
yeah. It was because of you, Dan. Yeah.
So okay, so listen, so markets, so you've got a pretty positive outlook, you're a positive person, you're a recruiter and the trainer. Like, so you mentioned the word there we're going to dig into in a second, like that customer experience word.
Mm.
But I think it's like just on the, being known for recruitment and training, and like not one thing, like I guess that must present some challenges to you in some ways in terms of when you're projecting your services into the space. What are other people receiving when they see that message? So I guess, how does that work within your business, and how do you then drive more than one or the other when depending upon where you're at with things?
So with with recruitment, I don't actually go out there to sell recruitment services. Um, it's just over experience, isn't it? People just know who you are. You've helped them before, you've recruited them somewhere, whatever that situation might be, existing client base know you as a recruiter because you've helped them before. Since starting EMB, hand on heart, have not done a single cold call to talk about selling myself as a recruiter.
Hmm.
I've just not done it because I did, that's in my mind going, I don't need to do that because there's only one of me anyway. So my dream, I do not want 50 live job vacancies in my business at any one time because that just breaks my model. I want to work with a handful of clients at a time and give them my full attention, my full attention. So that's where we will talk about it later about customer experience is I can't give everybody the same experience if there's not enough of me to give it. So people buy from me because of the customer experience they've had in the past. That's why you have people come back to you, Dan, for your training because they've had the experience, they've enjoyed it, it's worked, so they want to do it again. So it's
Because I've got
repeatable.
that dog, that's the real reason.
Yeah, but you've got that
Giving out
element
their
where people
pets and
want
their
to keep,
children, and that's why they keep coming back.
yeah, but people keep coming back to you because you're giving them the best experience. And if you can't work with 20 clients in 1 week,
Mm.
you can't because it's just impossible to give everybody the time that they need. So you, as a business, you might decide, I don't know your business model, but you might decide, I've got 10 clients that I'm working with this week, and all of them are going to have exactly the same experience. So no one's going to have, a piece of 10 minutes of me here, 15 minutes of me there, whilst I spend 2 hours with this client because they're my favorite client. I
Mm.
don't treat any client any differently, new or existing. They get the same service. There's none of this, well, Tom, we've been working with each other for 10 years. That's great. But I'm also working with these guys and they have my attention. And it's not a bidding war. I'm not saying to you, oh, if you pay me 25%, you get my attention. If they pay me 20%, they might get some of my attention. I want everyone to, I want, I, my, one of my weaknesses, if I'm being honest, not many people know their weaknesses, but I'm a people pleaser too much. I don't want anyone to think badly of me ever, from a business perspective.
People take
No,
advantage of that. Try to.
I no, because apart from now, I don't really tell people the weakness. But they could probably gather that what's important to me is people say good things about me.
Mm.
Even if I don't help them. So Tom wasn't able to support us. However, he pointed us in the direction of he supported us to the point of he did this for us, and we thank him for that.
Yeah.
You know, just because you don't recruit the person doesn't mean you haven't had an impact on somebody's experience or giving them some knowledge, or some clients we might not want to work with, and we've got that luxury to pick and choose. If you are a nightmare and you don't want to take anything on board for what we're saying, doing, it's never you, it's everyone else, all this stuff, then if you're unhelpable, you're unhelpable.
Mm.
There is sometimes a point where you got to go, that's a challenge, or I'm flogging a dead horse. I'm not going to be able to support them. And I'm okay to walk away from stuff, and I'm okay for people to walk away from me. But that is my worst nightmare in terms of I don't want anyone to ever feel like they've had a bad experience with me, ever.
Quite an old film now. You saw that film, Jerry Maguire, did you?
No.
Ah, Tom. And to anyone listening, especially the young folk, like Jerry Maguire, what a film! What a film! So he's a longest thought, but he's a sports agent. So he works for a big sports company, like with the quarterbacks and what in America. And Tom Cruise, who's Jerry Maguire, basically has an epiphany, and he says, "Less clients, better service." And it gets him sacked from his agency, and he goes out and starts his own thing. But eventually, like, there's a love story, and it's a good one to watch with the missus, whatever, as well. If you're into sales, good film. But yeah, the whole that famous line, "Show me the money," obviously comes from Jerry Maguire, and yeah, it's a good one to watch. I definitely recommend it. Like on Friday
Sounds
night.
very similar. Like they must have. Do you remember that Ballers with The Rock and I can't remember who else was in it with him. It was similar, sort of similar storyline. That sounds like.
Okay, yeah, I actually that's one I haven't seen, so I'll trade you.
Yeah, it's a similar storyline. It's just over a longer period of time, but
Yeah.
exactly the same sort of storyline there. And they set up that on their own, and they only have a certain amount of clients, but they're premium clients.
Mm,
And actually, again, I don't care what brand you are. I don't care if you're Nike. I don't care if you're Apple. I don't care if you're Tom Bedford's electricians. Yeah, you get me like everyone else gets me. So it's not I need to be different with Apple as to different with Tom Bedford electricians because you both get the same person.
mm,
And that's something I'll never break. Like that is my promise to anyone that I work with. You don't get any different a service as the next person.
mm.
Everyone gets the same service, the solid same service. That's it. Um,
I think on my end here, Tom, like I completely, I think my values are the same core values, right? I think in terms of going above and beyond and excellence, in terms of giving people best service, but I've kind of gone full circle in my business, and I'm looking at ways to where it doesn't rely on me, because I think there's only, like, again, depends on what your ambitions are, it depends on what you're looking to build, the rest of it. But down the line, like if you look at, take like Richard Branson for instance, he didn't build Virgin, on his own, and I think it's a case of the next part of me, which I think is quite a scary thing. I'm going through it as well right now, is like the art of delegation and hiring people to do certain jobs for you.
mhm.
um, like, I could edit this podcast, right? But I've got Gabby on board, to who you guys will have all met on episode 1. He's my guy, right? And I can do that work, but I choose not to. I choose to do other things. So I think it's the great thing about recruitment is it's that cottage industry in a way where you can be your own, like, kind of, your own boss and the rest of it. And which is great. And actually, that's something I love about this, is that you can have a laptop, a phone, a website, and you're in business, right? There's no bar to entry, really. So
Mm.
that is probably one of the main reasons why it's such a fast growing industry. And one other thing people don't actually know, that recruitment as an industry is worth more than legal and finance globally put together. It's massive. It's just ridiculous. So I'm I think I'm curious to see where the industry goes, and what's going to happen.
Mm.
I asked you a question earlier, and that question was, what do you want to be known for? Like, what's your big thing? We've touched into there again there, that customer experience, but
Mm.
one of the other things you said was being focused on the juniors, right? Just tell me more about that psychology in terms of, like, why that user base.
You know what? I get asked this quite a bit, and I mean nothing by it to senior consultants, by the way, because I probably sit within that bracket of being a senior consultant myself. But I get more of a buzz getting someone from zero to 200K profit or revenue billings than someone from 500,000 to 1 million.
Yeah.
Right? That bit there, that journey from half a million to 1 million is not as exciting as the 0 to 200, in my opinion.
Mm.
And sometimes it's the case of, you've just got these golden nuggets for people, and do you know what? Some clients, they're going in there because they might be a graduate. They don't have a clue about what's expected of them in recruitment. They've got a friend that used to work in recruitment, has done reasonably well. They've they've applied for many different management graduate opportunities, but they weren't successful, so they've come into the recruitment sector. Whatever the situation might be. Or they've just been really successful in business development in a totally different sector and want to try recruitment. That journey between not knowing what recruitment is to learning what recruitment is a massive shock to some people. But I like taking people through that journey of, this is not, it's part of my training, but I'm not going to just teach you how to pick up the telephone and start talking to people, because there's a lot more to learn before you get to the point of just being able to talk to people. Because guess what? We can all talk to people. It's learning about what we're going to say to these people when we're actually talking to them. So, the hook, the objection handling, the how am I going to, convince you that I'm the right person to help you in a very, very short space of time. Um, and that bit there is the bit that excites me the most, rather than working with seniors that are already they're very, very good. And I say, well, what do you need from me to get you from 500,000 to 1 million? Because if you're already at 500,000, that getting to 1 million is not that difficult. Sorry, you might be able to hear my dog laying next to me dreaming.
I couldn't, but now I can. He-
Yeah. um,
He's
but
okay.
yeah, just that journey between knowing very little to that journey of billing, or even your first, like, placement. That journey there is, I get much more satisfaction out of that than I do seniors. But then when I think about my business before, I've recruited countless consultants over time. In the 12 and a half years, I've probably, I don't know, 50 consultants maybe in that time. And it's probably a bad thing to say, but not a lot of them were very good. And that's not the case of what they didn't get trained. It was their mentality. It was the way that they thought things were, and they weren't ready to put in the work. And
Mm.
sometimes that's the first bit with what I think anyway with junior recruitment is great. You're here first day. This is not about what suit you're wearing. This is not about, how shiny your shoes are and what watch you're wearing. Forget all of that. This is we're now into sort of the nitty gritty of, I'm about to pull you through some horrible woods, and you're either going to like it or you're not.
Mm.
It's as simple as that. And that's, for me, I get much more satisfaction out of that. More of like a mentor, if you like, rather than physical sort of a day's training, 2 days training, a week's training, or a program over 6 months to get people and onboarded and all this stuff. That's great, that's good, but we can't just wave a magic wand in 6 hours and then someone's going to be an exceptional recruiter, or an exceptional leader, or outside of recruitment.
Yeah, do you know what? I think you're definitely on something there, but for me, I'm probably better at, like, I can train rookies all day long, but I think for me it's I'm better and probably better known for that half a mil to a mil piece, right?
Yeah,
I think the reason as to why is because the what I've seen with the juniors is a lot of the times it's a case, it's their potential is baked in based on who you hire, right? Um, and yeah, everyone's got there's a scale and a range of potential, but generally that range is kind of baked into the person, right? So I think, like what you said earlier, like we touched on it, for you it's the intelligence piece, right? Your intelligence is God given, like no one can take that away from you. And you couple that with persistence and the rest of it, and you've got this recipe for a good recruiter. um if if that intelligence coachability isn't there at all, right, it's no amount of training is going to get that person to be the right person. So I think that with the juniors, um the most important part for me getting that right is selection, and hiring those right people. Once you've then
which is
got
also
that.
something I help with. So that, like, you're right. That's the important bit. There's no point in sending me or you into a room or online, whatever format, and going, Dan, Tom, here's 12 new starters. Crack on. Good luck. Because actually, you're right. If they don't have that first fit, which is not our responsibility, from an onboarding perspective or selection, because we don't own the business.
Mm,
Um, and sometimes that's just about being honest sometimes with the client. When you're selecting these people, are you saying yes to everybody, or are you
sometimes they must be.
yeah, are you just saying yes to anyone that comes along to interview, and then we'll see how they get on, because everyone likes to give everyone opportunity, which is absolutely fine. If I didn't get an opportunity with that company that I was working with, I wouldn't be in recruitment, because it weren't necessarily an industry that, and everyone always says it, that they fell into recruitment. I It's not an industry that I wanted to be a part of. It was an opportunity presented itself. I became a part of it, and I really enjoyed it.
Mm,
But I had the bit beforehand, which was I made 60, $70 an hour working in a contact center. And these people I was working on a dialer system. I had to literally write, I'm going to the toilet. So it paused, right?
mm,
So this is how regimented it was when I first went into a contact center. I didn't mind it, but I can guarantee you now, 95% of recruiters that we know could not and would not, even on the same salary, same commission earnings, etc., go and sit in that contact center and do that job. The most basic job.
mm,
It is a basic job. Just going to keep dialing. And when you answer, you probably had the Recruiter magazine before or whatever. Personnel Today. These are all the magazines that I was doing. If I said, Dan, you want to come along for another year so get Recruiter free of charge? Just got to ask you 5 questions. Is that all right? Yeah. Bomb, 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 bomb. Have you still got 10 people in your business? No, we've got 15. Cool. And great, Dan, not going to bug you anymore. Have a good day. You now subscribe for another year. There is that. It's not a difficult conversation.
mm,
It was more of the having to make $70 an hour that people wouldn't necessarily like to do. But when you're on a dialer system, you can sit there like this. You don't have to do anything.
mm,
And all you're doing is having conversations, so you become a little bit robotic. But I think the point I'm making is, if you haven't done that bit, I'm not saying that's the place where people are born, but if you've not done something that's grafty at the start, and you're leaving university or whatever, and you're going straight into recruitment, that's where it's a 50-50 for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
You either got it or you don't. You're either
How
really
quickly
highly
would you call
intelligent.
it if you didn't think someone had it?
Say that again, sorry.
How quickly would you call the arrangement if you didn't think somebody had what it took?
I, you know what? I think I wouldn't call the arrangement. I'd still go, I'd still be doing the training and stuff. I would be saying to the client, it's cyber, this ain't going to work in the 4 training programs you think it's going to work in. This person's going to need a little bit more, mentoring or shadowing, or these guys, in my view, these ones are going to really accelerate given the right, onboarding now they've had the training on whatever. These guys are the ones that probably need to be a little bit more coached.
Mm,
And that's up to you now whether you've got the time to coach them or you don't. But a lot of recruitment owners just want someone to come in, cover their salary for the first 2 or 3 months in hope that after those 2 or 3 months, they're now 15, 20, 25, 30 grand billers.
mm,
That doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen. People have to, it takes longer than that. It does, doesn't it? It takes longer than that for people to really, unless you're going into a warm desk where you're working for an RPO or you're working for a client that just doesn't have to do any business development because they've just got loads of opportunity come their way, and then you become a resourcer. But if you're good at that, great. But don't get 360 and 180 recruitment. Don't get that mixed up.
mm. It's very interesting. I think you're right. I think, typically if those people don't have those things from the beginning, yeah, yeah, it's so difficult to put some stuff into them. But like for me, like I would always encourage founders I'm working with to treat that probation period as an extended interview, right? So, and to always think about, it's not a it's not a £50,000 decision. It's like a 3.5 grand a month decision, right? And that's the risk you're taking, not necessarily the whole salary for the whole year.
Yeah.
And then, do I back this person to do X amount in a year? Well, you're going to know about that from the first part, but I think where these academies are in question, um, I've had it before where I've literally walked into a room full of people that have been hired not by me, and my the first kind of bit of advice I've got out of the 8 people, I think you should get rid of 4 of them straight away. I think because the amount of effort and energy that it takes, and the unfortunate part of, and again, this is my style. Not everyone's got the same style, but the unfortunate part of this is that every um, if you've got 8 people in a training program, right? The 4 people that you think are going to make it, you're probably better from an ROI point of view doubling down with those 4 people than you are trying to get the other 4 people up to the standard of which the other ones are. So, from a human element, that's not the right approach, but from a commercial element, it absolutely usually is. So then you've got this kind of, are they failing because of us or are they failing because of them, and making sure they've got they've got enough. But I think
But
it's
inevitably, Dan, they'll leave. They'll leave anyway because they won't feel loved.
hundred
Um,
percent
and
right.
they'll move on.
So if they're going to leave, if they're going to leave in 2 months, I'd rather they left today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where as soon as I know not going to work, I cut it straight away. Like within obviously legal frameworks, right? But I'm as soon as I'm like, as soon as I'm sure I've made my decision, I'm checked out. And I think that that's because I've been sat in the founder's shoes, and I've had headcount of 20 people, and I'm like seeing the oxygen tank deplete every week, every month, and I'm like, shit, we're gonna run out of oxygen soon. And then, I've got this guy here who's like paddling the wrong way, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm not. So I think, I don't know. It's being there are so many. There's no one answer to the question in terms of like,
No.
how do you invest, because all different models are different. People have got different runways, different stages. I'd say, well, if you like the person and you can support their salary, then keep them around, right? I mean, that's you know
And I
morally,
always say, as well, like recruiting people in pairs. If you could take one person, take two,
yeah, absolutely.
because they tend to work better together than inducting one at a time. So if you've got the budget to recruit two people, do that. And if you don't, I would probably say make the budget to
Yeah.
recruit two people. So only recruit when you can recruit two of them, and not when you can recruit one, depending on what the role is. Obviously, if you're going in as a 180 consultant or a resource, shall we say, customer service type person, then yeah, maybe you can do one at a time. But if you're hiring a 360 recruiter from scratch, from somebody that's just graduated or just not worked in recruitment before, you're best off recruiting in pairs, because they feel, I don't know, there's something psychology around it where people feel a little bit better
Mm.
joining with somebody else because you're not the new kid.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty good advice, to be fair, and even to the point where if you've got runway for one person for 6 months, then take two people, but give them half as much runway, and
yeah, or
just
just
make it
recruit
work.
when you can recruit two.
Yeah.
Don't just recruit one, recruit two. So if you haven't got the budget to recruit two, then don't recruit right now. Unless you're physically up against it, have it so you can buy it twice. That would be my sort of advice. Don't buy it unless you can buy it twice.
So what yeah, just sort of, I guess, rounding this episode up, right? There's a couple of things I want to just quickly touch on, but
Mm,
what would you say would be the thing that you want to leave the audience with today? Like, what is the bit of wisdom that you want to depart this episode?
yeah, wisdom. Not got much of that, I don't think. Um, Look, I think depending on who's watching this, it doesn't matter what sector you're in, whether you're in recruitment, whether you're in financial services, warehousing, logistics, wherever, whatever in between. Training your people is worth its weight in gold, because I'm not just saying it as a trainer going, oh, pick me, but don't expect things to change if you're not willing to invest in that change.
Mm,
So that you can put that cap on no matter what department you're in. If we want more sales and we don't have enough people or the right skills to do it, then we either need to recruit new people or we need to train the ones we've got. Right? It's not going to change itself. If we're losing customers hand over fist, it's got to be something to do with our process.
mm,
So is it customer service? Is it customer experience? Should we look at that? So what can we do differently? You know, again, that might not be a people thing. That might be a process thing.
mm,
So what changes can we make? I think, the wisdom that I would always say is what I said earlier. If you can, recruiting in pairs for sure, no matter what the job is. If you can't afford to, then don't recruit. Um, Train the people that you have properly. Don't expect them to. Don't expect. I mean, again, it's from the selection process, but don't expect them to have the skills that they say they do, because everyone falls into that trap. Of hiring somebody because, well, I'm going to hire Dan because he's worked here before. That must mean he's really good. People do it all the time. The unconscious bias part of
hired
interview
on
selection.
hired on experience and fired on behaviors.
Yeah,
Yeah, the line.
yeah, and from my wisdom probably ends there. From unless I go into a sales pitch, which I'm not going to do. What should you be doing as a business owner? What you should be doing as a hiring manager or HR department? Look after the people that you've got, and you know develop them and train them to retain them. That's the goal. Don't get on this merry-go-round of hiring, because you can that ride might not stop.
So you
So
are part of Orca. You've
I'm part
you've
of what?
uh, you've joined the alliance, my man. And
Hmm.
so by the time this episode hits, it'll be published. So if you haven't checked out Orca, you can check it out. And Tom is on Orca. You've done some modules I've listened to, very good. And beyond that, look, Tom's details, LinkedIn will be in the show notes of this. And other than that, I think you've got absolutely bags of value, mate, and a great haircut. So I'm certainly an advocate. Mate, really enjoyed this episode. Thanks for coming on, and
Thank you.
They can certainly get more of you on either your contact you directly or check him out on the site. Other than that, you've been Tom Bedford. I've been Dan Alexander. This has been the Performance Zone, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, guys, that is a wrap for this episode. Now it's time to take what you've learned and keep pushing forwards. Remember, Bamboo Performance is here to support you every step of the way, whether that's through our one-to-one coaching, exclusive live events, or our online training platform. If you're ready, visit our website, and until next time, stay unstoppable. This episode is proudly sponsored by Orca, the online recruitment coaching academy. Get access to live coaching, online courses, and playbooks from the industry's top coaches. Your entire organization can get access for less than the price of one email per day. Sign up today at trainwithorca.com.